So despite America's insatiable appetite for all things involving the SUV, the Toyota Camry has consistently been the top-selling family sedan over the last 15 years. Therefore, this all-new 8th generation is a very important model for Toyota, one in which the company is calling the most comprehensive redesign in its 34-year history. So today, I'm driving the 2018 model here on the beautiful back roads in Portland, Oregon, which begs the question, is this all-new Camry really the sportiest model the company has ever made? Let's take a look and find out. So historically, the Camry has always been known for having a slightly vanilla exterior design and driving dynamics. With this all-new version, Toyota is looking to change all that completely. And you can see this particular trim that I'm showing you is the same one that I showed you on the auto show floor back in January. It's the XSE trim. Distinguish it from its unique front fascia, this black painted portion of the grille, the honeycomb mesh finish. Now, one thing that you should know, every Camry comes standard with LED headlights. The XLE and XSE models have the upgraded premium LEDs, which are full LEDs. Now, this particular one that you're looking at is a new color. It's called Windchill Pearl. It's the pearly white color. It looks really good, especially with all the black finishes that you get, especially on the black painted roof that this particular one has. Now, these 19-inch wheels, they come standard on the XSE. They're available as an option on the SE. All Camrys will range from a 16-inch steel wheel on the L all the way up to this 19-inch on the XSE. They're also wrapped in 235 series rubber, so they do fill out the wheel wells nicely. Now, proportionally, the Camry is larger versus the old one. This is riding on Toyota's all-new TNGA platform. The wheelbase is about 2 inches longer. The overall length is almost 2 inches longer on this XSE or SE trim thanks to the bumpers. Now, let's talk a little about the black painted roof, because this is a segment first for the midsize family sedan segment. It's actually hand painted at the assembly line, and Toyota offers the black roof in silver, this white, or that blue streak metallic, and it's only available on the XSE trim. You can see a pano sunroof, finally available, standard on V6 models, optional on all the other trims. Now follow me over to the rear here. You can see the design is very, very aggressive, just like the front. And all Camrys will come standard with LED headlights, or taillights. The front has standard LED headlights with the premium LEDs. This one, being an XSE, has full LED taillights, so the turn signals and the reverse lights are also LEDs. Another couple of things you're gonna notice, the XSE has this kind of fake air cooling vent for the brakes, which I'm not entirely sure how I feel about them, because they definitely look a little bit tacked on at the last minute. If you look at other Camrys, they don't have that feature, which I think looks a little bit cleaner. But overall, you can really see the lower proportional stance of this car. Toyota made it wider, lower, much more aggressive, and it looks like a much more premium car. I especially like the rear spoiler with black paint on the XSE. And for the first time ever, Toyota is offering quad exhausts on an XSE. And you get quad exhaust regardless of the engine configuration. So this one is a 6-cylinder. There's no V6 badge anymore, but with the quad exhaust, it certainly gives this car a much more aggressive and premium stance when you look at it from the rear. Now, because this is a sedan, you're probably wondering how's the trunk capacity. The Camry has a pretty large trunk. This new one measures around 15.1 cubic feet of space. The seats fold down 60/40 on all trims except the base L model, and Toyota still gives you a temporary spare tire when you look underneath the floor, so you don't have to deal with a fix-a-flat kit. So with this all-new 8th generation, Toyota is also giving us 3 completely different all-new powertrains. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you is the upgraded V6 motor. However, most of you are probably going to buy the 2.5-liter 4-cylinder. That motor is actually an all-new from the block design. It's a 2.5-liter dynamic force, which Toyota refers to the combustion design, which is much more efficient. It has a very high compression ratio. It's kind of similar to what Mazda does with their Skyactiv engines with a 13:1 compression ratio. All engines now have direct and port injection. That's what D4S means. The 4-cylinder makes 203 horsepower on the L, LE, and XLE, while the SE and the XSE make 206 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. Now, that is class-leading numbers for base motors in this family sedan segment. Now, obviously, I've got the one that probably the enthusiasts are going to go for. This is the 3.5 liter V6. That's right, Toyota decided to stick with a 6-cylinder for the Camry, which is really great news for me. And now it makes pretty much the most power in the class, aside from the Fusion Sport, which makes a little bit more. It makes 301 horsepower, 267 pound-feet of torque. Now, that represents nearly a 30 horsepower jump over the previous generation, and it makes it much more powerful than the Accord, the Altima, and the Passat. Now, all Camrys run through an 8-speed automatic transmission, replacing the 6-speed auto. There's still no manual transmission available, but all Camrys are still front-wheel drive. Now, fuel economy, that's something that a lot of buyers are concerned with. The 4-cylinder gets up to 41 miles per gallon on the highway and 29 in the city on the base L. All the other trims, because they've got bigger wheels and tires, will rate around 28 in the city and 39 on the highway. This V6 is still pretty impressive. It's rated at 22 in the city, 33 on the highway. Now, in case those numbers aren't enough for you, Toyota still offers a hybrid version of this car running on the same 2.5 liter 4-cylinder with an electric motor. That makes around 208 horsepower combined, and Toyota says the LE model will get 51 in the city and 53 on the highway, which is literally tops in the class. It's better than what Honda offers in the Accord hybrid. Of course, that's only for the LE. If you guys go step up to the XSE or SE and the XLE, it's going to drop to around 44, 47 mpg. Like every other car, the interior is a very important aspect that a lot of buyers are looking at. And you can see the inside of the all-new Camry is certainly very striking, especially in my tester with this gorgeous red leather. Now, the red leather, you should know, is only available on the XSE trim, so you have to at least get the sporty looking one to get the sporty looking cabin. Now, when you shut the door, surprisingly, it doesn't really sound quite as solid as I thought, but when I had the window up, it sounded a little bit better. But this is an all-new platform, so I'm going to chalk it down to this one being maybe like a pre-production model. But you can see my tester has push-button start with intelligent access key. This is the new Toyota key fob. It even says Camry on the back, which is a really nice little detail. You get this push-button start on most of the higher trims, where you can option it in as part of a convenience package on the lower trims. But to start the vehicle up, just put your foot on the brake, push the button here to fire it up. Now, listening to the engine start up, this is the V6, which is obviously the the potent one, the smoothest, most refined one. It sounds exactly like how I expect a Camry to sound when you first start it up. Now, looking at the rest of this interior, I'm pretty impressed with the design and the quality of the materials. Camrys have always kind of been more on the average end, and Toyota's definitely upped this up to be at the class leading status. Lots of soft touch materials, lots of great, interesting textures, and an interesting looking design. Now, first of all, the windows are one touch for all four, which is definitely a surprise. I didn't expect that at this price point. And the materials in here are pretty nice. The dashboard is all soft touch with this really nice graining. I like this interesting textured aluminum look that you get on the XSE. If you guys go to like an LE or an XLE, you'll have kind of like a faux wood grain. And then this really nice soft stitched padded area here on the lower part of the dash is a really nice detail, and it all makes the interior look a lot more special. This is a much more special feeling Camry, and that's, I think, what Toyota needs to go with this all new version. Now, the seats on this particular one, they're leather covered. Obviously, they're only heated. Toyota doesn't offer cooled seats, and they also don't offer memory seats, which is a strange omission for me. I'm guessing they're probably saving that for the Avalon, since that one is a class above. I find the seats to be mostly comfortable. They're a little bit on the hard side, so you need to try the seats out for yourself, make sure they work for you. Now, looking at the steering wheel, it's an all-new steering wheel design, obviously, and there's a lot of new buttons in here and switchgear. The cruise control stalk, for example, all new. It's got separate buttons as opposed to that little stalk that they've been using for literally the last decade or two. And I really like the gauges. You have a really nice helper screen that's like a 7-inch display. Your TAC and your speedo are really easy to read. And Toyota also gives you a heads-up display on the higher trims, especially standard on the V6, which is like a 10-inch heads-up display. That's a segment first. The Mazda 6 offers one, but it's that cheap plexiglass screen that flips up. I don't think it looks as good as this. Let's talk a little about the center stack, because this is the all-new version of Toyota's Entune 3.0. No, it doesn't have Android Auto and CarPlay. I know that was a question that a lot of you were asking. Toyota is working on adding that, but there's still a lot of negotiations they have with Apple regarding privacy from what I hear. But the latest version of Entune is pretty nice. I mean, this is the home screen here. This one has the upgraded 8-inch display with the dynamic navigation system, which Toyota says offers as-you-go updates. So basically, because the car now has 4G LTE, whenever you drive the car, if there's a new map update, it'll automatically update that for you. Now, the touch response is pretty good. I mean, it's basically what I expected from Toyota with a lot of the, the buttons in here. The layout has been definitely redone. Instead of, like, for example, the presets being on this side like they have been on the past, they've moved them down here, which you can see the graphics are nice, the response is quick. When you put the vehicle to reverse, you get a 360 perimeter scan. This is optional, of course. It's part of a technology driver assistance package on the lower trims, but this V6 XSE has it. It's really nice. It has trajectory, it has parking sensors, it has distance markers. It's a really nice system to have if you guys are looking for the latest technology. Looking at the map display here, I'm going to talk about that really quickly because Toyota has updated the head unit here with updated map graphics. They're not going to really blow you away with impressive graphics like some of its, like European cars, but it gets the job done. And I really like the fact that this is an updated head unit. If you guys don't go for this particular dynamic nav, you're going to have Scout GPS, which is standard on every Camry. That's where you actually have to download the app onto your phone and it'll project nav, which is kind of similar to what Apple CarPlay and Android Auto does, but it's Toyota's version until they decide to actually give that to you. Now, a couple things down here, the center stack. Obviously, you have your heated seat controls, cup holders. There's a wireless charging port down here with additional storage. You can basically hide your phone underneath there. And this controls the 8-speed automatic transmission. I like the fact that Toyota has gone with a new shifter this year. Instead of that traditional gate that you kind of have to go this way, it's just a traditional, come forward and back, and then there's a sport mode here. There's different drive modes here. You can go from eco, normal to sport, and then there's a new electronic parking brake that comes on the upper trims of the Camry with a new brake hold function. So again, Toyota is throwing in all the technology that you kind of expect in this class, and they've really caught up to a lot of their competitors. Now, this panoramic sunroof is also a really nice addition. It was nice that Toyota decided to go with that. It's standard on the V6 Camry trims and optional on the other trims, and you can see it adds a lot of light in here, and it really brightens up the red interior and makes it stand out among this class. So with any family sedan, the rear seat is a very important category to judge, and the Camry definitely does well here. The old model was kind of average, and this new one with the wheelbase increase has much more legroom. You can see plenty of foot space. There is still a hump here that takes up space, but you can see I'm 5'7" and I can cross my legs back here and be relatively comfortable. Now, when you shut the door, it sounds solid, actually. That's because I have the window up as opposed to when the front door had the window down. But you can see the materials back here. They're soft touch, just like the front. I really like this detail here with the aluminum that kind of extends from the handle back here. And as I said, the windows are automatic up, down for the rear seats as well. A couple of other features I'm noticing, it's got rear seat vents back here and a nice little armrest with some cup holders. And to aid with versatility, the seats fold down 60/40, and Toyota gives you 2 little map pockets here in the front seat backs. So now for the part that you guys have probably been waiting for, the driving dynamics. I mean, as I said earlier, Toyota is really touting up the fact that this is the sportiest Camry to drive. So I'm out here on the beautiful back roads in Portland, Oregon, and we're going to test that theory out. Now, in the past, you wouldn't even think twice about taking a Camry on a back road. The car has always just been super numb, soft. It's an isolation chamber, and that's something that, Camry buyers really expect and want. So with Toyota making this on an all-new platform, it's the TNGA, the Toyota New Global Architecture. That platform is stiffer, it's stronger, it's 30% better torsional rigidity versus the old one, and it has an all-new double wishbone rear suspension. That's something a Camry has never had. So let's get out on the road and see how it performs, shall we? Now, this particular one that I'm driving is the one that enthusiasts are gonna want if you have to go for a Camry. It's the 3.5 liter direct and port injected V6, double overhead cam, 24 valve, 301 horsepower. I mean, when did you think that we'd have over 300 horses in a Camry, right? And I have to say, when you get it out on these back roads, you can definitely feel the fact that this V6 makes it special versus the Turbo 4s in the competitors. I mean, the engine itself is smooth, refined, but really it's the chassis of this car that really shines. Toyota's TNGA platform is just remarkable. It's got a level of solidity and playfulness that you just didn't expect a Toyota to have ever, really. or at least a Camry. And the steering in sport mode right now is very direct, linear, smooth. It's relatively quick, still a little bit on the numb side, but you know, it's a Camry. My expectations are low for a Camry. Again, if you guys are constantly used to driving European luxury sedans, this isn't going to impress you. But if you guys are coming from the old Camry or the Accord or the Mazda 6, this new one has a surprising amount of playfulness. And then when you put your foot down, you can feel the 301 horses pulling you and really tugging away at this car. Now, because it is front-wheel drive, you do notice a little bit of torque steer. It's very, very minuscule, but surprisingly, the Camry puts the power down well. There is not very much wheel hop, but you will spin the tires out if you guys floor it constantly. I mean, these are pretty fat 235 series tires, and it really shows in the dynamic of this car. The visibility in here is also good, so it's still a Camry. It's still very easy to drive. The hood is nice and low. One thing that Toyota mentioned is you sit lower in this one because of the new chassis, and you kind of notice it when you are going around, you know, driving the thing. Now, there isn't too much test data on this motor, but the old Camry was definitely one of the quickest in the segment, like 5.8 seconds to 60. This feels to me like it matches it. Honestly, I need to get it out on, you know, my local roads to really test that out. But the engine itself, typical Toyota. It's smooth, loves to rev, makes a decent noise. It's a little too quiet, honestly. I mean, with quad outlet exhaust in the back, I was expecting this thing to be really like mean sounding, but really the V6 has that refinement that the Camry, the typical Camry buyer, is looking for. It's a very nice place to spend time. And the car itself, I'm impressed. I'm hustling it through these back roads here. I have to say I'm impressed with the overall feel. Now, one thing I am noticing with the 6-cylinder, it's got a lot of weight on the front, so it will push when you start, you know, pushing it hard. But I mean, overall, it's got the power that I'm looking for. Really, the last Mazda 6 that I drove handles and feels similarly to this, although the Mazda had slightly better steering feel, but this has the pull that I was looking for that the Mazda didn't. This, to me, feels like, you know, a smoother, stiffer, more balanced Accord, to be honest. And that's the thing that really confuses me, is Accords have always been the sportier option, and that's really not the case anymore. Now with this XSE in this dynamic red leather with the black roof and the white paint, I mean, it's a phenomenal driving car that will surprise the enthusiast into thinking that you're driving some kind of European sports sedan until you start really pushing it, and that's where the front-wheel drive routes will kind of remind you this is still a front-wheel drive car. It's not going to be as balanced as a rear drive car, but Toyota has one hell of a chassis with this car, and because of that new double wishbone rear suspension, the ride quality is controlled. It is on the firmer side with these 19-inch wheels, but it's not overly jarry. I could deal with this. I mean, again, the typical Camry LE buyer is probably going to think this is a little bit on the firm side. Really, what I can't get comfortable in are these seats. These red leather seats on the XSE, they feel really hard. So you guys may want to try the seats out before you actually buy one and decide if they work for you or not. One thing I am noticing with this new Camry is the road noise is rather persistent. Now, I am going to notice that the roads here in Portland, they're kind of crappy. They are really, really noisy, just the surface that they're using. So I'm going to have to wait until I get one in, at least on my home turf, before I really decide if it has road noise or not. I mean, everything else with the noise is very quiet. The engine noise is nice and subdued. The wind noise is quietly hushed. I mean, and overall, you're going to be flooring this car and just having a big smile on your face, especially with this transmission. The 8-speed auto in this Camry is good. It's got 2 more gears than the 6-speed. It's nice and smooth. It's linear. It shifts relatively quickly. The paddle shifters also are surprisingly good. Now, when I put it into its sport manual mode here and start using the paddles, it will actually blip the throttle, which is nice. It rev matches, and then when you start using the paddles, I mean, just decently quick shifts. I mean, it's not going to be like, you know, Audi S4 quick, but when was the last time you could have this much fun with a Camry on a back road with the paddle shifters? But, you know, I'm going a little bit ahead of myself here, because honestly, how many people do you think are actually going to buy a V6 XSE Camry? The V6 take rate is honestly really low. Toyota only expects about 5% of you to go for the V6. So let's jump into the 4-cylinder model and see how that one feels in comparison to the wonderful 6. So about 80% of you are going to option for the standard 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. Now this is an equally all-new engine from the block up, and I figured it deserved some seat time as well, since I've got the 4-cylinder and the V6, so I can drive them back to back. Now a little bit more about the V6. As I mentioned earlier in my review, it's a dynamic force V6. Now what the hell does dynamic force mean? It refers to the combustion thermal efficiency of this motor. It's now got direct and port injection. It has a very high compression ratio, 13:1, so it's very similar to what Mazda puts in their Skyactiv engines with the high compression ratio. Thankfully, it all uses regular gas, just like the V6, and with 206 horsepower on this XSE model, you know, it's got the most power in the class for just base engines, and it should be, you know, enough engine for most Camry buyers. So let's get out on the road and see how it accelerates, especially since we just hopped out of that V6. So the first thing I'm noticing immediately is just how much lighter the front end feels with the 6-cylinder. This particular SE that I'm driving still has the more sport-oriented tuning of the XSE, but you definitely feel the fact that it's a 4-cylinder. It doesn't have, obviously, the pull of the V6, but surprisingly, this engine does make decent noises. I mean, it's a typical Toyota 4-cylinder. It's smooth, it's quick to rev, it gets, you know, decent fuel economy, and it's just a relatively smooth motor, and that's not something you typically associate with a 4-cylinder, but the transmission in this car is also equally good. It's the new 8-speed direct shift automatic. And really what surprises me is this Camry's chassis. I mean, they prioritized handling, as I mentioned, with this TNGA platform, and it shines even more with the 4-cylinder. Without that nose-heavy V6, the car just feels super playful and super direct. The steering is probably the weakest link here. I mean, it's quick enough, but it doesn't give you kind of the heft and the road feel that you're looking for. But as soon as you get used to it, you know, it's an electric power steering. It's pretty much what the norm for this segment. It's right on par with the Honda Accord, the Volkswagen Passat. The Mazda 6 definitely has the most talkative, communicative steering, but this is definitely not bad. It will shock you. I mean, those of you enthusiasts who stick your nose up at Camrys, you can finally get behind the wheel of a 4-cylinder model and attack your favorite back road. And this thing is not bad, honestly. Now, there is no official test numbers yet, of course, because this car is so new, but it feels like it's around a 7.5 to 8 second car, 0 to 60 wise, which is plenty of speed, you know, for the majority of buyers. Enthusiasts are going to put your foot down. You're probably going to complain that this doesn't have enough power, honestly. All right, there we go. So yeah, you have to be a little bit more patient with the 4-cylinder, but you know, I think a lot of you are going to be pleasantly surprised. Toyota has really a great chassis on their hand with this all-new Camry, and this is the first implementation of the TNGA in full, where it has that double wishbone rear suspension. You really feel it in the ride quality and the bumps and the way this thing just eats up a back road like this. You never really would expect a Camry to do that. Now, of course, because this is still front-wheel drive, it will push when you really start getting it going, but the lighter 4-cylinder definitely feels like the more agile car, where the V6 can feel a little bit nose-heavy, and it does limit, you know, your level of confidence when you're going through these roads. Now, one thing I really like about the new Camry is every trim, except even the base model, comes standard with their TSSP, Toyota Safety Sense P. That means you have adaptive cruise control with the full speed range if you have the electronic parking brake. If you don't have the electronic parking brake where you have the foot brake, it actually will shut off at around 20 miles an hour. You also have lane departure alert with steering assist. You have automatic high beams. You have pedestrian detection with automatic braking. I mean, this car will basically partially drive itself to a full stop in traffic on the higher trims. So that's just fantastic, the fact that Toyota made that standard. I also love the fact that, you know, LED headlights are standard on every Camry. That's definitely a segment exclusive for this mid-size family sedan segment. So Toyota's really throwing out the features, the technology, and they've really turned the Camry into something special. It finally feels modern, it finally feels premium, and it finally feels new. That was really my issue with the last 2017 Camry I drove, is it just felt like I was driving a car from 5-10 years ago, and that's kind of not really the case. Just like the V6, the 4-cylinder also has a good amount of road noise, but again, I'm on pretty crappy roads here in the Portland area, so I will have to reserve judgment. I did get some seat time in an LE and XLE, and I did notice pretty much the same amount of road noise. This car is riding on slightly skinnier 18-inch wheels on 235 series rubber. The ride quality is good. The visibility in here is good. Just a little bit of road noise. That's really the only thing you hear. The 4-cylinder, you hear a little bit more wind noise, but in terms of the rest of the cabin, everything else in here is pretty premium. The seats on this SE are slightly softer versus the hard seats in the XSE. This is the synthetic leather, I believe, instead of the real leather. And I think that most Americans are probably going to get into these seats and find them to be okay. But as with any car, you want to try the seats out before you actually decide to make a purchase. Utilizing the paddle shifters is also a surprisingly fun experience in the Camry. It has the same rev matching throttle bipping as the V6. And when you start using the paddles and put it into sport mode, this car will surprisingly put a smile on your face. One thing that really impresses me is the fact that when you start, downshifting, it actually will rev match, and that's not something that I expected from a Camry, especially in this segment. So with its premium design, upscale interior, and remarkable driving dynamics, you're probably wondering, what does this all-new Camry cost? Well, when it hits dealer showrooms next month, you can expect to pay around $23,500 for the base L. Stepping up to the LE will cost you another $500, where you'll get alloy wheels and a power driver's seat. Now, if you're looking at the pricing of the old model, that represents about a $1,000 increase versus the 2017 Camry. Now, if you guys are looking at the hybrid model, that's going to cost you around $27,500, which is again a $1,000 increase for the LE, the base trim on the hybrid. Now, this particular one that I'm showing you is the top-of-the-line XSE. It's now sitting above the XLE in the lineup. With the V6 option, that's going to cost you around $4,500. All in, this one stickers for about $35,000, which is definitely more expensive versus last year's model by like $2,000. But with all the additional features, the newfound performance, the new driving dynamic and feel, I think this all-new Camry is definitely in that realm to be charging that amount of money. Now, earlier in the review, I asked the question, is this the sportiest, most dynamic Camry? Well, after spending the whole day driving it here in Portland, I'm happy to report that it's a very, very fun to drive Camry, which is not something that you could say about Camrys in the past. Now, keep in mind, if you guys are used to driving a European luxury sports sedan, this is not going to impress you. In fact, most of the sedans in the family sedan market aren't going to impress you. But if you guys are looking for something sporty, refined, easy to drive, nice to look at, and something that'll stand out, I can finally say that the 2018 Camry XSE V6 should be at the top of your list. With all that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Toyota Camry XSE V6. If you're looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video. I have to admit, I would never consider a Camry fun on back roads, but even in this basic LE model, which basic is relative, this is technically one above the L, this car will surprise you. It surprises me in its handling feel and the responsiveness, the willingness of the chassis, and it's really going to be a shame because honestly, this car has such a bad stigma of being such a boring, vanilla transportation appliance. But I swear, if you guys do find the time to go take a 4-cylinder Camry out for a drive, you're going to be pretty impressed when you start attacking your favorite back roads. This car has a chassis that can handle it. It feels just as sporty as the Honda Accord, not quite as sharp-edged as the Mazda 6, but it has much better levels of refinement than the Mazda and more interior space. And the seats on this LE model, they're pretty comfortable, honestly. I sat in briefly the V6 XSE and I found the seats to be hard. I'll talk about a little bit more about that in my test drive on that model, but for a daily driver that can surprisingly attack some back roads with ease, you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the 4-cylinder 2018 Camry.